much for attending our workshop this evening. I truly believe that the information that Dr. Brick's going to share with us can be life-changing. So now I have an important question for everyone out here. Who would like to be healthier and happier? See both mine up? Well, you know, the stuff that Dr. Greg is going to teach us tonight can start that path to accomplish that. I want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Greg. I'm Greg. He's been in practice since 1980. In that time, he has made well over 500,000 adjustments. This clinic is in the top 5%, I'm proud to say, of chiropractic offices in the United States. Dr. Greg himself has sat on the board of directors of the Texas Chiropractic Association. He's actually held a couple of different positions there. And Texas Monthly Magazine twice now has named us as one of the top chiropractic clinics or offices, in the Houston area. We're very proud of that. Dr. Greg himself spends a lot of time traveling, learning, so that he can bring back information to us to make us all healthier. So one day when somebody says, who here wants to be healthier? You can smile and say, I'm already on that path. I'm very proud to present to you the #1 wellness coach in all of East Texas, Dr. Greg Peter.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Haven't seen everybody in so long. Hey, Floyd, good evening. Hey, if y'all don't mind, I'm not going to wear this. I'll try and stay back. If I start spitting and spewing, tell me and I'll put it on, okay? But I really do appreciate everybody being here tonight. Some of you, this is your first workshop. Some of you, it's your 4th or 5th workshop. Depending where you are in your health journey, I appreciate you being here. We started doing workshops over 25 years ago. We started doing them because statistically we started seeing that the United States health was going in this direction. Okay, and really back then it wasn't too bad. We were actually 13th in the world in health and longevity. There's a lot of countries. 13th isn't too bad, is it? Okay. I quit looking at the statistic, I believe it was 2017, because every year when I looked at it I got mad because we continue to go this way. The last time I looked at it, we were like 47th in the world. Now what's wrong with that picture? We're America. We should be in the top 10 in everything, okay? And if we weren't doing anything about our health, that would be one story, okay? But we spend more money than all of the other countries in the world combined, not just the ones ahead of us, but all of them in the world, and we get the 47th best result. Folks, that's sort of like if you had saved up money for years and years and years to buy a car, and you actually had like $200,000 cash to go buy a car. So you walk into that dealership and you plop that money down, you stand back and you go, Lamborghini, Ferrari, you know, something really bad, right? And out comes an old beat up rusty Pinto wagon, okay? Doesn't fit the story, does it? Doesn't fit the picture. And so we're putting a lot of effort into it, but we're getting a really crappy result. And see, and today, I really think that we get great medical care, but we get very poor health care. See, when we, you know, and you want to have great respect for medical doctors. You know, by and large, they're there to try and help people, okay? But if you go in there and you go, you know what, I feel great, I just, wow, you know, and my nutrition's really good, and wow, man, I feel great. What are they going to, other than they might send you to the psychiatrist because they think you're crazy, right? What can they treat? They're trained in treating illness and disease, aren't they? And you know what? And when it comes to that, they can diagnose those things very well. But they're not really set up for health. And we can look at our statistics and see that. Did you know that we take 7,000 prescription pills per second in the United States? Now, if prescription drugs made us healthier, wouldn't we be #1 by far? Right? Okay? So I'm not saying that there is no use for medicines, medication. No, I'm not saying that. You know, if we have some kind of a disease or something like that, it can save our life, it could enhance our life, or at least improve our life. But folks, they don't make us healthier. See, and that's what we've got to really look at. And so that's what really started to inspire us to start doing some of these workshops. And you know, well, and if you do have questions, just write them down, and I'll try and answer them at the end of the workshop. One of our goals, and I hope it's one of your goals, is that if you are taking any medications, is that you're able to get off of them or drastically reduce the amount that you're taking. See, drugs do not make us healthier. So if we can do things where, in other words, if I was taking a blood pressure medicine and now my blood pressure is lower, so I don't need to take that medication, who's for that? Okay, anybody for that? Okay. If you hang around here much, you're going to hear me say this a lot. Posture truly is the window to our spine, okay? And if our posture's off, our spine is off. And if our spine is off, folks, our nerve system is off. And it's really simple. If our nerve system is off, our health is off. Plain and simple. You know, I put this up here because for most of my career, Valium was the most prescribed drug in the United States. Now, I looked this up in the physician's desk reference, okay, the drug Bible. And you may not be able to see that in the back, but here's why we should take Valium. For anxiety, fatigue, depression, acute agitation, tremors, hallucinations, and muscle spasms. Now, I want you to be aware, though, because some of the possible side effects are anxiety, fatigue, depression, agitation, tremors, hallucinations, and muscle spasms. That's not a typo, folks. So I'm depressed. So I go to my doctor, and he says, gosh, Greg, you're depressed. And I don't even know what doses of Valium they are, but he says, here's 25 milligrams of Valium. So I'm taking it, and I'm actually having some of the side effects of it, so I'm even more depressed. So I either on my own go, well, gosh, Doc didn't really understand how depressed I was, so I just take 50 milligrams, or maybe I go back in and he goes, wow, Greg, I didn't realize you were that depressed. Why don't you take 50 milligrams? When it was the whole time was the side effect that was affecting me. See, Eli Lilly of Lilly Pharmaceuticals said a drug without a side effect is not a drug. And he said that a long time ago when the drugs weren't near as powerful as what they are today. This is a new word for most of you probably, subluxation, okay? Subluxation is a misaligned vertebrae that interferes with our nerve flow, okay? It's literally causing short circuits. Now, what does it do is it lowers our resistance by interfering with our life force. You know, we might call our soul, you know, our God-given intelligence. In chiropractic, we call it our innate intelligence, our inborn intelligence. But it's that God-given intelligence. And these are the words that are very important here, which flow over our nerves from our brain to all of our tissue cells. See, it doesn't just go to the pain fibers in my neck or maybe the muscle fibers in my lower back, but they go to every single cell in our body. Okay? We really need to understand that it goes everywhere. Now, I'm looking at here, and almost every one of you came in here because of one reason. Now, it may have been in a different part of your body, but it was pain. But as you've started to learn, because what percent of our nervous system actually perceives pain? 10%, exactly. So for you math whizzes out there, how much nerve interference could I have and still not have pain? 90%, right? Okay? So yeah, I'd be dead if I had that much interference. And so trying to manage our health simply by how I feel. Hey, if I'm going to school and I'm making a 10 in class, I'm either going to be in class a really long time or I'm going to flunk out, you know, I'm going to be on probation, right, or whatever. So, you know what? We don't want to be in pain, but that shouldn't be our only monitor. Because, see, it's also the last thing that shows up typically, and it's the first thing that goes away. And so think of, you know, most of us, almost the way we've been educated, the way we've been taught is that pain's the enemy, right? I mean, who wants pain? Nobody wants to have pain. But I don't want to say pain is our friend, but I'm going to say pain's our ally. Because, see, the way God made our body, if there was something wrong, there's this alarm bell that goes off. See, most of you probably have a smoke alarm or two in your house. So if in the middle of the night, tonight, if that smoke alarm goes off, I would imagine you probably wouldn't go grab a chair, climb up in it, take the smoke alarm down, pop it open, take the battery out, cuss it, and go back to sleep, would you? No, your house is on fire, right? You're going to call 911, you're going to wake everybody up, you're going to get out of the house, you're going to try and find where the fire is, but your house is on fire. Well, see, pain is our smoke alarm. So if all we do is cover it up by taking a medicine or even just getting a couple of adjustments at the chiropractor's office so that we feel better, folks, all we've done is take the battery out of our smoke alarm. And we won't know we're on fire until it's like a 4-alarm blaze. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that we're making in healthcare today in the United States, is that if I feel good, I must be healthy. How far from the truth? How many of y'all have known somebody, they were 35, 40, 45 years old, they were a jogger, they looked good, they felt good, they were oh so healthy, and now we're at their funeral because they dropped over dead? The only way you do that is from poisoning or trauma. Somebody shoots you, or you get ran over by a truck, or somebody gives you cyanide. You don't go from healthy to dead just like that. You're very unhealthy, and then you're dead. Causes of subluxation, there are a lot of them. Some of them are the obvious ones. The stresses and strains that we have every day. And we have our stress workshop will be coming up next month. That's one, if you haven't been to that, you absolutely need to attend it, because it really helps us put what stress is doing to our bodies. The birth process is one that most of us don't think about. Moms think about that, right? But there was a large study in France that showed that the vast majority, these babies were 2 weeks or younger, the vast majority of them had a subluxation. I've been privileged to be able to check a lot of newborns, infants, stuff like that, and the majority of those children that I've checked had a subluxation. So see, they didn't come in crying, and mom says, well, yeah, they told me I had a headache, right? But it was from birth trauma that it happened. It's easy to fix then, folks. If it's been there 30, 40, 50 years, not so much then, right? Some of you are finding that out. Another one is gravity. Most of it's just sort of cuss gravity, right? Because everything starts to shift in this direction. But gravity is very important. And we have Fred right here. He's a prime client of our weight loss program. It's very, very effective, okay? But our spine should be straight from front to back, and it should have the curves from the side, okay? When it's lined up properly, folks, I'm pushing hard, and it's doing absolutely nothing. If I shift it that much, look how easy that happens, okay? Who wants to look like this? Anybody here tonight? No. And you know what? And because of ribs and muscles and stuff like that, we wouldn't look like this. But can you see how important posture really is by it being off just a little bit? In other words, Roger Sperry, MD, won a Nobel Prize on brain research. He found that 90% of our brain's energy output is used to relate our bodies to gravity. 90%. So again, for you math whizzes, that leaves only 10%, right? The 10% is what we sort of thought was the important stuff, right? Thinking, healing, metabolizing. So if my posture's good, it takes 90%. If I'm like this, is it taking more or less energy to keep me upright? Would y'all agree more? Because I can feel these muscles over here are tightening up, don't want me to fall. So let's just say this was 93%. That's only 3% increase in what it takes for my posture, but that's a 30% loss for my thinking, healing, metabolizing. See, folks, that's how we get sick, how we break down from subluxation. If there just isn't enough if I'm like this, there just isn't enough electricity to run my whole body the way it's supposed to run. Okay? So, moms, just like always, you were right, but just didn't realize how important posture really is. Now, I want to go over a case study that came out of Lee Hadley's book. Dr. Hadley was a medical doctor, a radiologist. He was one of the so-called leading medical authorities on subluxation. Now, I want to put a little disclaimer out there. I'm of the slide projector generation. So when it comes to this PowerPoint stuff, I'm not so good, okay? But this is a side picture of a healthy neck. Now it's sort of scrunched because, like I said, I'm not so good at this. But the person's facing this way. Now the disc spaces in there are all normal. They're about 1/4 to 1/3 the height of the vertebrae. All the bones are nice and smooth. The head sits right over the shoulders. This George's line, a stress line, should go right through the middle of the fourth cervical disc. So this is healthy. Now, the one I'm going to go over, the person's facing that direction. So we need to think of the curve being in this direction. This was one of the case studies in his research. This was a lady in her early 30s, and they took multiple X-rays over multiple years. If I went over every single one of them, we'd be here for about a week. So don't worry, we'll only be here till midnight. Okay? No, but she was complaining of neck pain, and so she was part of the study. The X-ray shows she's a phase 1. There's no degeneration, but can we see that there's loss of curve? And the head is certainly shifted out in front of where it's supposed to be. That X should be right there. It's clear up here. They gave her some muscle relaxer, anti-inflammatory, her pain went away. Now, again, like I said, there were multiple X-rays, but a couple of years later, what we can see is this has gotten worse. So there's even more forward head posture. There's now what's called a double harmonic. It's an S curve. And then look what's happening down here. There's disc degeneration and osteoarthritis that's happening there. Okay? She didn't have neck pain at this time. Now let's look 2 years later, and now you can see there's even more deterioration. Still wasn't complaining of neck pain, but she was complaining of shoulder pain. They diagnosed it as bursitis. They gave her a shot in there. But I find this interesting. The primary nerve supply to the shoulder, guess where it comes from? That area right there. So could it have been possible that there was nerve interference that was going to the shoulder, which the shoulder was only working, let's say, at 60%, and she was out doing 80% work, and she injured her shoulder? It wasn't like she lifted too much weight for her potential, but where her body was. Now, we don't know, was that a factor or not. Now, keep that picture in mind and see what's happening in 5 more years. See, now not only is there more deterioration here, but look what's happening. There's another level of disc degeneration and osteoarthritis that's going on. Let's take a look at 4 more years and look at how massive those changes are. And literally 1 year after that, there's literally fusion in there. She went in a 15-year period, went from a phase 1 to a phase 4. Now, fortunately, that's not how quickly we typically deteriorate, okay? And the other thing that I found very interesting is that in the work, most of the time she did not have neck pain. Every time I look at these X-rays, I start rubbing my neck. Okay, just almost makes it hurt. So this was a little disappointing because in his first book, he talked about how devastating subluxation is, scourge of the earth, so to speak. Wish something could be done. Chiropractors went to him and said, "Hey, doc, guess what? We treat subluxation." And so Dr. Hadley, being a very smart individual, looked into, number 1, do chiropractors treat subluxation? He found out, yeah, they do. Now, number 2 is more important. Do they treat it successfully? And he found out, yeah, they do. So he later said that subluxation alone is a rational reason for chiropractic care throughout our lifetime. Chung Ha Su was in Boulder, Colorado. In his day, he was one of the world's leading authorities on subluxation. I surpassed him several years. No, I'm just teasing. This guy was brilliant, but he did a lot of research on subluxation. And he said if subluxations are not corrected early, the subluxation will be difficult or impossible to correct later. I mean, if we go back and look at those X-rays, do you think we could get a better result with a 1961 or a 1974 X-ray? With the amount of degenerations there. Now, he was also talking about millimeters of pressure on a spinal nerve root. I couldn't get that in my brain what that was. So he literally took a coin out of his pocket and he put it on his hand there, and he said that amount of pressure when applied to a spinal nerve root will cause up to 60% loss of that function within 3 minutes. Most of our new patients come in with about $1.98 worth of nerve interference, okay? But, so it doesn't take much pressure to really cause a lot of interference. Because just potentially, so if I had 60% nerve interference, could I still not have pain? Right? Because 10 still fits into 40, right? I mean, so could that still be happening? I mean, imagine if we turned the electricity in this office down by 50 or 60%. Okay? We'd be looking at a black screen here, right? Because the TV would shut off, protect itself, the computer would shut off. The air conditioner, if it was still running, it'd be squeaking, wouldn't it? Whether externally or internally. The lights, yeah, they're probably on, but we might be stumbling over each other. Okay? We don't want this thing having electricity turned down really. Abraham Tobin was a neuropathologist at Harvard, that little school back east. His fame or infamy came from studying crib death, sudden infant death syndrome. Okay, studies were rather morbid, but really, really informative. But what he actually found was that 7 out of cases of crib death were due to spinal cord damage in the neck area at the time of birth or shortly thereafter. See, back in the day when I was born, the birth process was treated more like a disease, right? It was sort of like, get that tumor out of there as fast as you can, and we're learning from that, and we're still not like we should be when it comes to birthing and stuff like that. But again, we're trying to make it as minimally traumatic as we possibly can. But you can just see how much damage could actually happen. B.J. Palmer is known as the developer of chiropractic. His father, D.D. Palmer, was the founder of chiropractic. B.J. was a genius. He was truly a genius. So he said a lot of things, but he said this. He said, the master maker of the human body did not create you and then run off and leave you masterless. He stayed on the job as our innate, our inborn, our God-given intelligence. As the fellow within is nerve transmission controlling every function of life, as spirit from, these next 4 words are very important, from above down, inside out. Expressing, creating, exploring, directing you in every field and phase of experience, so that your home is truly the world and the world is your home. That above, down, inside out, I want to talk about that a little bit more. That is how the body has always worked, and I'm assuming that's how the body will always work. It all starts right up here in our brain above, right? It moves down our spinal cord into the nerves and out to the tissues. Body's always worked that way, okay? And so our body heals from the inside to the outside. See, there's never been a pill or a potion that's ever cured us. It may have helped our body fight something so that we could get over it. See, folks, even an adjustment is an outside in, isn't it? We're taking an outside force, making the adjustment, but what's happening is we're removing the interference so that the body can work and communicate from inside out. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? I hope it does, because we have to understand that our body isn't stupid. Well, maybe our organs are stupid, but the brain is really smart. And if it can talk to our organs and they can talk back, everything can work really, really good. Okay? That's what we have to understand, is that we heal from inside to outside. So the body doesn't need any help, it just doesn't need any interference. Okay? That's plain and simple what we need to know. Might we need things other than just keeping our spine and nerve system in check over our life? Absolutely. Absolutely can happen. But that's the thing that we really need to focus on. So if we put a roadblock out here on Normal Park this evening and we ask the next 100 cars, what's the most important organ in your body? What would you think most people would probably answer? Heart. Exactly, heart, right? Because if our heart stops, we're in big trouble, right? It is the #1 cause of death in the United States. So we have to understand that it is a very important organ. But do you know how long your heart will work without nerve impulses flowing through it? about that long. Okay? See, the nervous system is what runs our body. And the better it can work, then typically the better the rest of our body can work. So we talked about what the number one cause of death in the United States was. What's the second leading cause of death in the United States?
Car wrecks, no.
Good answer, but wrong.
High blood pressure? High blood pressure? Stroke?
That would be in the heart disease type of thing. Stroke. Cancer. Cancer is the second leading cause of death. And depending on, in some of these reports, they put stroke with heart disease or cardiovascular disease. In others, that they separate it. So if you have it separate, stroke would be number 3. What's the fourth leading cause of death in the United States? No? Good answer, but incorrect. Conventional medical treatment is the fourth leading cause of death in the United States today, folks. That study first came out a number of years ago from Harvard. There was a lot of
Animosity.
yeah, there was a lot of objection or BS, bull kind of thing. No, and then University of Toronto, University of Pennsylvania, UCLA, all these schools looked at the research and they went, oh, that's right. So see, folks, we're 47th in the world in health and longevity. The fourth leading cause of death in the United States is conventional medical care. That's something that can save our lives. Okay? I'm not bashing medicine. With what they should be doing, they can save our lives. But just pills and potions, folks, hasn't worked, has it? See, what did Einstein say was insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting to get a different result. He also said that if you want to change your life, you have to change roads or at least change lanes. Because if you're going the wrong direction, if we need to get to New Waverly tonight and we head off that direction, are we going to get there? Not unless we have some supersonic jet that can fly us all the way around the world, right? Because we're going the wrong direction. If you're not going the right direction, I don't care how dedicated you are to it, you're not going to get there. So we need to start taking our health into our own hands and not believing all those commercials that we see on television. And we need to start looking at truly what's happening. You know, a chiropractor should be on your healthcare team. You don't fire your medical doctor. They're needed. Okay? I don't know if you watched the Cowboys football game the other day, but you know their quarterback broke his ankle and his lower leg, and there were bones sticking out of his skin. Okay? I'm sure he needed an adjustment right then, but he needs a little bit more than an adjustment, right? I mean, so we need to make sure that they're there, but we need to have that healthcare team, and we really need to understand what health is. Because see, when I first started doing these workshops many years ago, I would ask somebody every week, okay, define health. Some brave soul would raise their hand, or I'd raise it for them. And I don't do that anymore. You can relax. Because I got about the same answer every week. And it's, well, if you feel good and you're not sick. And I'd even see some people in the audience sort of like that Family Feud thing, sort of, oh, good answer, good answer. But if we look up health in Dorland's Medical Dictionary, which is sort of the Webster's of the health field, it says that health is a state of optimal physical, social, and mental well-being, and not merely the absence of disease and infirmity. Let's put that in English. When our body is working at 100% in all aspects, and it's not that I just feel good and don't have diarrhea. There's a huge difference in those two definitions, isn't there? Okay? So we really need to understand that my body needs to be working in all aspects as good as it can possibly work. Okay? And so that's what we try to strive for, is to be one of the cogs that can help you be healthier. We had a gentleman come into our office a while back, and he was complaining of lower back pain. And in his history, he was in his late 20s, a long history of asthma and allergies. What he said was that, and he was in law enforcement, so he actually carried a gun. Every October and every March, he said he was in bed, or he was having to take, so many things for his asthma and allergies and stuff like that. And I thought, wow, he probably was a little bit impaired, and then he's out there potentially being in a dangerous situation or something like that. Well, he had subluxations. We were adjusting him. After his first year of being under care, his wife and he sit down and figured it up, and they had saved over $1,500 that year in the amount in the medicines they didn't have to buy for his asthma and allergies that way. So see, you never know what removing nerve interference in our body will do. Most of the time we get that desired result when that person comes in here, you know, that back pain goes away and stuff like that. But you don't know what other things are going wrong in our bodies that either haven't shown up yet or that have been there that we wouldn't think, oh, well, it's a nerve system problem. See, most of our health problems are actually power problems because the power can't get to where it's supposed to be at 100%. If we can remove that, folks are they're functioning a whole lot better. We see it year in and out. People are just healthier by doing that. And I ask for your help because our mission is to see that every man, woman, and child on the planet has their spine and nerve system checked for subluxation. 9.5 out of every 10 people that you know have subluxation, yet only 1.5 out of every 10 are being adjusted. So on your clipboards tonight, on your back page, there's a space where you can actually write names down. So if there's someone you thought of tonight that you go, wow, I really think Bill should have a spine and nerve system checkup, I want you to write Bill's name down and circle number 2 to the right of his name. If he lives in this area, we'll do a spinal screening and consultation at no charge. If they live a long ways off, just tell us where they're from. We'll try and find a chiropractor in their area so that they can have that checkup and screening also. Okay? If you'd like to have somebody attend the workshop, write their name down, circle number 1 to the right of their name. If you think a phone call would be best in order, you need to just circle number 3 to the right of their name. Now, obviously, I want you to talk to that person and tell them that I'll be calling. I'm not going to make a cold call with them. But you know, you never know what you may say, think, or do today, folks. It can change the lives of millions tomorrow. When you're done writing, if you'll put your name on the bottom, and that way Terry will give you the spinal exam cards. We're not going to harass those people. You'll actually give them that card. So I'll shut up for just about a minute, and you can write if you like.